Shade's Tale, a second edition Ironclaw game. We're going to be picking up from last week where we kind of ended in a hurry amidst some technical difficulties. First things first, let's introduce our characters, and then we'll do a little bit of a recap and pick up the pieces. I assume Rafferty is not Rafferty. Theta's still going to be joining us via text. So Theta, why don't you go ahead and tell us about Harmon in the chat, his name, his personality, his motto. And while you're doing that, I will ask Arcloyd the same thing.
Hello, I am Mark Lloyd. I play Connor Levere de Crevis, the Brazen Raccoon Knight, whose motto is one who washes the other.
All right, we also have Griffin playing the Anonymous Doctor.
Yep, that's right, everybody. I'm playing the Anonymous Doctor, the Armadillo Almoner. His motto is, first do no harm, second get paid.
All right, and Rafferty is playing Anushka. He said that he might be late joining us for today's game, so we're going to get started without him for now. So,
I guess one note for character changes, I've gone ahead and sold Insider with Connor's family, gasp, and acquired Healing.
Okay, what does the healing gift give you?
Healing is when I rally someone, I can go ahead and roll and see if they recover from hurt, injury, or sick.
Oh, fantastic.
Automatically.
All right.
Once a day.
All right, excellent. Okay, once a day that's a little more limiting, which is probably good because you could keep fights going on forever with that.
Right.
Good though. Cool. Okay. So, who wants to help me with the recap from last session? There was a jailbreak. We were breaking out Connor's brother Bruce from the dungeons beneath the palace in Enclume, an avoirdupois town known for their smiths. And for the most part, you guys got out in one piece, but there was a bit of a chase sequence at the end there, where you guys had purchased a carriage. You were driving along the plains, running from the Enclume walls while being pursued by several avoirdupois soldiers riding jennets, and you were able to basically stun them, attack them, knock them back, and also keep all four wheels of your cart on the road. And they watched you cursing as you disappeared into the night with your prisoners too, in tow. One, Bruce, the young raccoon acolyte, and also a strange, scraggly-looking lion with a limp. And let's pick up there, because that was quite a dramatic moment, and I kind of missed it because we were running out of time and I was having internet troubles.
It's all good. It's all good.
So, as you are staring at these figures on their jennets disappearing behind you, Bruce will let out a sigh, and in a weak, raspy voice, he will turn to you, Connor, and say, brother, you've come. I apologize for the danger that I have placed you in.
I'm sure you would have done the same for me, or any of my brothers for that matter.
He chuckles weakly. Still, the honorable knight. Father must be furious. I hope he did not act rashly or incite some kind of plan against the Enclume.
This fury will be tempered by seeing you alive and well, of course.
Indeed. I assume Salumer still has some plans for me, And at that, he's just going to slump against the side of the wall of the carriage and just pass out, fall into a deep slumber. Where are you guys headed, out of curiosity?
Sure, has been with sleep with his arms all hanging from the rafters like that.
I think we were heading back to Femerouge.
All right.
To deliver Bruce.
Okay, and I think we established that is a 3-day journey by carriage. So you guys will have several days. I don't believe anyone is injured, but if you are, you can mark your recovery for that. Let's see.
Yeah, I don't think Anusha got hurt at all last time. Connor, you didn't, and Harmon, you didn't either, did you? Yeah, you're perfectly fine. It's just kind of like our two people on the coach here. And Raphael, I suppose.
That's true. Raphael is still injured. It's cozy in the back of this coach. We've got quite a motley crew. In fact, this might be a good time to check with Connor's irregulars. Connor, I'm going to have you roll for your irregulars. They did join you for this breakout. But actually, before you do roll, I have a question for you on behalf of Cellino, the large muscle-bound cattle who joined you as a mercenary in, I believe, was that in? Actually, I don't remember where you picked them up, but he's a little bit
from the Doloro territories where we picked them up. I'm not sure what part of it.
Cool. It was probably in Bruges. And yes, Harmon gets back into his armor and gets paid. I believe he gets the rest of the payment that you guys owe him. Although you might have to wait until you get back to Femerouge. I don't remember the details of that transaction. For now, we're on the road. There's a couple things that I think we need to address before we get there. So Cellino is a little bit taciturn on the dawn of the next following day as you guys are on the road. Pretty sure you are no longer being pursued. You've taken some side roads and maybe taken time to hide out at a village. And if they are looking for you, they're going to have to cast a wide net at this point. Connor's family will foot the bill for Harmon's payment. But Cellino seems like he's been a little bit quiet. You can tell there's something that has been bothering him. And he keeps shooting you looks there, Connor. Sort of expectant looks.
What is this all about, Cellino?
Oh, well, sir. No disrespect. When you hired me for the job, I was told that I would be partly paid in plunder. And then he looks around sarcastically and he says, "But I don't see any plunder here, so I'm wondering exactly what my payment is supposed to be. I have no use for these two," and he points to your prisoners who are still groggily recovering from the night before.
Yes, I was wrong in thinking there would be plunder. How would you feel about 6 dinar for your trouble? Out of character, that would be paying a enforcer level NPC for 1 day's wage.
Oh yeah, no, it's probably a pretty fair. Well, I mean, it depends on what you think. It's probably pretty fair if you were going to hire someone up front. Although there's also the risks involved with breaking into a palace. You're directly putting yourself in the clutches of
why he's
noblemen.
Paying so much more than a typical wage.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Well, let's give let's have a roll for this. Negotiation. Yeah, could be will and negotiation.
Right.
And I would say in this case, Cellino is kind of unfazed by the noble thing. I don't know if nobility would apply in this circumstance. He's kind of a gruff guy. He ain't got no respect for his betters. All right, that's one success. Chilino is going to snort at first. He opens his mouth. You can tell that he's getting ready to ramble on about the dangers and of the job and his part that he played in it. One success is something that anyone can do. I think in this case it's fair. I think in this case it's more just determining what exactly he was how easy he was going to be pushed over by Connor. And I think that in this case Chileno wanted to get more out of it, but perhaps he realizes that this is probably his best offer. He's not, he's a mercenary. I think they do get haggle, but that's for purchasing of goods. So I think for here, this is fine. He'll accept it, but he says that he's not particularly thrilled. He didn't know that the Levere were such cheapskates, and he says, I think this is where I get off. I no longer wish to travel any further into of war territory. I want to get back home where the good prospects are, and he's going to dip.
Well, if he doesn't want to get paid by my father, then by all means he can leave early.
Oh, no. Okay, he's sticking around. If you can't pay him right now, then...
Oh, no, I can pay him now. I can definitely give him the 6-0 now. But if he doesn't want to get paid extra by my father for heroically rescuing his son, and of course that's not spoken aloud. That's just me saying that.
That's just you saying out of character, yeah. If you haven't made the offer up front, I think he's probably just going to take it and leave.
I gave you what I could, Harmon, and I was going to make up the rest of it when we got home.
Speaking,
so that's the whole reason why I don't have all the money I had before, because I did give you some of it, not a lot of it, but enough of it to get Harmon interested in the offer at least.
Speaking of getting home, if it's going to take us 3 days, I have 3 chances to heal people. Particularly Raphael, who is sticking around, as it turns out, and our 2 freed prisoners. So okay. Raphael is just a typical, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So his will is going to be a d6, so I'm going to add that, and I'll just go ahead and roll it.
That's right. Healing is interesting because it includes the health or the willpower of the person you're healing.
Right. So in this case, doesn't really work. He would be cured of hurt, but that's already happened. It's because its first is that 2d4, and my personality got nothing. So I'll just go ahead and continue treating him normally, which we've already been working on, which would be at least 2 rote.
Gotcha.
Second day, we have Bruce. 2d8 is what it says. So for Bruce's will, what is that like?
That is a good question. Connor, Ark, do you have stats for your brothers and your family?
I didn't make them. I didn't think it would come up, but
that's fine.
Well, he is also an almoner like me, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I would give him increased trait of will. I think that makes sense. Like treat him as a typical, but with a d6 of will.
All right, and if he has piety, it would likely apply to this. In which case, 2, he is cured of injury and also of hurt. Well, he's already cured of hurt. That took like 5 minutes, but he's no longer injured.
All right.
If he's still sick, that's going to be trouble.
I think it would make sense if he was injured. So he was kept down there for 2 weeks. He was fed, but not particularly well. This was not a political hostage situation. It very quickly became a like a hateful hostage scenario, and so he wasn't treated especially well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that rather than say that he is sick, we can treat it as an injury, and you're along the way to healing that.
Well, this heals it automatically.
Cool. Perfect. All right. So, yeah, he becomes he becomes a lot better than he was previously. He looked like he could barely move his arms. He was lethargic, but now he's seeming like his old self, perhaps a little skinnier, but grateful to you there, Doctor.
Wonderful. And then we have our new lion companion on the third day, so by the time we're starting to arrive back in Femerouge, we'll give him a go. What is his will like?
What is his will like?
Actually, I wonder if lions have increased will. It's been a minute.
Do they?
Probably.
I'm going to treat him
not.
as a typical as well.
Okay. Alright, so we'll go ahead and roll that. And that is going to be enough to heal him of injury as well.
All right, he says, you shouldn't waste your light on me, Father. This is just, I'll be fine.
Nonsense. Look at you. Absolutely miserable. How could I stand to sit and continue to see you suffer?
You think he sheds a tear, a guilty tear, and he says, you are too kind to me. The both of you, he says, addressing Bruce as well. I suppose all of you. I truly don't know how I could have survived in there without the kind and gentle words of your brother, Sir Levier. I assume you guys probably have done introductions at this point. This lion has introduced himself as Meadows. He says that he's but a humble weaponsmith, hailing from the forests north of Ardent, the southernmost city in the Avoirdupois territory, or large city at least.
Right over there.
Yeah, you're not far from where he says that his workshop is. And he says that if there's anything that he can do to repay your kindness, although nothing immediately springs to mind.
I suppose it would merely be to keep the light in your own heart.
He says that's great too. Okay, so this is actually something I had been meaning to do. So when you guys found Meadows, he was praying, and when you he seemed to have a special affinity for Bruce, but you did not see, he did not have any holy symbols on him. He's dressed like a blacksmith, essentially. And now for the longest time, this is probably already a gift that you have, Griff, right? Did I give, not a gift, a goal? Did I give you the goal of try to convert someone to the light?
You sure did.
Oh, right. Okay. So then this was a ramble for nothing. If you didn't already have it, I was going to offer it because,
yeah, just one of those thoughts that sticks in your head. It's like, wait, did I remember to do that last time?
Did I leave the stove on? This was that. I'm still
what's
kind of
the worst
waking
that could
up.
happen? It'll only burn the house down.
Exactly. So, whatever. Insurance money. So, yeah, you get the sense that this is, that this lion is recently awakened to the idea of spirituality, probably from being thrown in a dungeon. A priest will kind of do that to you. But you can also sense that there's something holding him back from the path, as it were. Like I said, he seems desperate for forgiveness, desperate to ingratiate himself to you all, but sort of at a loss for how to go about doing that.
Right. I suppose since it's a long journey and we have nothing else to do, if you have the time for your own to tell us your story, well, perhaps it'll be fun to hear.
Oh, you wouldn't want to hear the story of a poor wretch like me. Um, just you just know that well, I was wrongly imprisoned by the Enclume. They seemed to think that I knew something that I had no way of knowing, and and since I couldn't tell them what I didn't know, they kept me there for by by the light it seems to have been months. Uh and you can tell that he's fighting back tears. For a lion, he seems to be quite emotional. Quite for a large guy, he seems to be rather emotional.
Oh, of course. Last time I was playing an emotional line.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry I
But
missed
of
that.
course, I'll go ahead and say, I believe not too long ago, Sir Connor here and his family had some ill tiding with the Enclume. I believe even to the point that they were trying to uh, take him to court before the very prince for, well, stealing secrets and the like. I imagine this is perhaps a similar claim that they laid upon you.
Stealing secrets. They accused you of stealing. Now you see a new side of Meadows. He um seems to retreat within himself, and there's just a malevolence coming off of him. He says, those dishonorable bastards, and then remembers himself, looks to Connor, and says, "I mean not to speak ill of nobles,
Oh,
my
you mean
lord."
those bastards over in the Clume territory? Speak however you wish of them.
He grumbles now. He says, having given permission, thinks and says, "Those right stinking smelling bastards." He lets out a string of curses that typically are reserved for dock workers, and calms himself and says, "Stealing secrets, is that right? Well, they too are thieves. I'll tell you true, good sirs, that um, before I was captured, imprisoned by them, I found my adopted father, a blacksmith of great renown. Found him slain, murdered, on the floor of our shop, destroyed, torn to pieces. I was distraught. I was not in my right mind, and it was then that they set their thugs upon me. They brought me to their dungeons, and they asked me for my father's smithing secrets day after day. He was, after all, the finest alumen weaponsmith in the land. Uh, and although they had courted him for his secrets, for a private commission, again and again, he turned them down. He always would tell me in private. He would say, "Boy, Oran, your father, is no one's servant. He makes an honest living, and he sells his wares with pride. But we are craftsmen. Many would try to use our tools for their own ends, our talents for their own ends, but that is not how we will make our living." And when I think of those curs, he just, again, just air waves of malevolence rolling off of this lion.
Of course, they've done you wrong, and for that, I have to say, I'm sorry to hear. But my
And
friend
now,
Connor here, his family does run a smithy. At the very least, they understand at least some of your pain, though they have not been injured quite to the extent until just now. And I'll look over at Bruce. I imagine, given a moment's thought, they might do the very same.
mm, um, Meadows has heard of the uh, Levere family, or at least of Femerouge. You guys own an alumen mine yourselves, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, they do. Um,
And I'm
Sorry, my
sure
brain
if it's
just
a
stopped
Dwarf
thinking.
Fortress, they would be dealing with a hell of an aquifer to get through to it.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Ark. Can you say that one more time?
Oh yeah, if this is Dwarf Fortress, I'm sure they have an aquifer in that area to deal with.
Oh yeah. Hmm. Subterranean cooling and such. But yeah, it sounds like this is to make the distinction here. I imagine that the Lever clan has very good smiths, a good mining community. They've got access to this stuff, and they know how to forge it into armor, probably into weapons as well, in some capacity. Based on the description in the book, forging weapons out of alumen is incredibly difficult because it's a very light metal, and it's difficult to forge. So I'm sure that your smiths have a lot of experience in that particular field, but there are maybe this guy's father was a bit of a, I don't know if journeyman is the right word, but basically like some people have a gift for these kinds of things. Like this is a specific craft and he's distinguished himself. He's got his special techniques.
The
Sorry?
journeyman is a level of training. He was a protege.
Got it. Yeah.
I think protege is like a good student, or maybe it could mean a natural at it, but
Maybe. Meadows might have been a protege, and this Meadows' adopted father was a master, I suppose, of this particular craft. The curious thing, though, is that you know that alumen is typically very rare to find. Part of the reason you would assume, Connor, part of the reason why so many people would be interested in commissioning or like getting into business deals with this individual is because he must have had his own supply of alumen in order to do what he does, in order to ply his trade. So there could be business reasons behind it.
yeah, that is interesting. And what did we say this line's name was again?
Meadows.
Meadows.
He has gone by Meadows Ashen Paw as a smith. You can see that in addition to the malnourished sort of state that he is in, that he's got a bunch of tiny scars, like dot scars on his paws from the heat of the furnace, common among smiths.
Right? All the sparks coming off of when they're smacking the metal.
Mm-hmm.
So, Meadows, did your father have access to a earth mage and possibly a fire mage to help process the ore?
So at that, he sits back, and he says, "Oh, uh, well, my father taught me how to work the metal, but he never, he kept many of his secrets, closely guarded. He said one day I would inherit them, but unfortunately, that day never came, and now seemingly would never come." You can tell he's very uncomfortable talking about it. He's shifting in his seat, and you also just get the sense that this lion is probably a terrible liar, very bad at cards.
I have no inquiry. So much for being a social character. Got deceit, gossip, negotiation, no inquiry. So I can't. Well, if he's lying bad enough that even I can tell he's withholding information, we'll call it. Perhaps a
Yeah, you
negotiation
could.
would
Right.
open his tongue a little.
I could at least press him on it, as I do actually have inquiry out of the three of us.
By all
Okay.
means, Doctor.
All right. So I suppose mind or will would be the question.
I'd say in this case, mind is probably the way to go.
Right, 2d6. 1 success.
All right. Um. Okay, Doctor, you've been around enough patients who are evasive about their personal histories. You've gotten good enough at telling when someone is um, lying, or perhaps even just lying through a mission. But it is very clear to you that this lion knows more about the process than he's letting on. He was probably instructed by his father to keep this kind of information very, very close to the vest. Never tell anyone, and he took it to heart. But you can also tell that he's probably very bad at cards, and so he doesn't trust himself with the information, and it makes him very self-conscious.
Of course, and I'll attempt to reassure him and say, we have no interest in your own secrets, and Sir Connor would be a terrible smith anyway.
Yes, I don't have the arms for swinging a hammer.
I believe he's merely trying to confirm something.
This relaxes Meadows' shoulders a little bit. He says, "Oh, I mean no disrespect. After months of being asked the same questions, I'm perhaps reasonably a little bit defensive, but well, like I says, I would gladly help, but I'm afraid that in the current state, my father's shop, there's nothing that I could. Well, there's nothing that I could do for you in terms of weaponsmithing. I wish it were true. I wish it were so."
Well, I wasn't asking for anything to be forged. As you can tell, myself, Harmon, we have some of the best armor that's made on this island. Of course, I'd like the same for my squire, but you've been through enough as is. I had just been curious as to how such a small operation as your father's could manage to keep the business afloat without such assistance. I don't know much about our own smithing methods, but I do know that we utilize wizards in the extraction of the ore from the base metal of the rock.
All right. So as you were saying this, Bruce is kind of giving you the side eye. You can tell that he is Bruce is a very sensitive soul. He's always been very interested in keeping the peace, and you can tell that he's built a bit of a bond with this lion, Meadows, and he's like, "Brother, you shouldn't pry." But Meadows says, "No, I owe you all my life, and I suppose it's foolish to keep secrets past this point. If they are all that I have of value, and good sirs, they are. Well, surely they should be yours if they should belong to anyone. I do know how my father got his ore. He would disappear sometimes overnight into the hills not far from our workshop. He told me that there was a hidden cave within this hillside. He never brought me with him on these journeys, though. He said it was terribly dangerous. The hills are known to be home to the Morigna, the goblin demons that once plagued all of Calabria before recorded history itself. I, as a youth, never fully believed him, but more and more I could sense the gravity in his tone, and when he returned from these trips, there was a shakiness about him. I saw that he would be sometimes visibly shaking from his correspondence with these fiends. So although I do not know the full truth of it, if what he told me was honest, those mines are where no one could get to them now, guarded safe by the woodland demons. And he gets very quiet.
The doctor is going to go ahead and start pouring out like a couple little drinks and hand one over to him and go, he was a very brave man. Braver perhaps than I. and give a quick little small toast in his name.
Meadows will drink whatever it is that you hand him, and choke back tears. He says, "He was the best father anyone could have asked. If only I could avenge him. Alas, I am not. I'm not sure I have it in me."
Mm. No, not at all. Vengeance is a game that will only take you down. It is not something you should seek out. Connor here and his family have disputes of a different level between nobles. I'm sure perhaps somewhere there may be some sort of justice. But to seek out another and simply end them out of anger, I could not bear to think what that would do to you.
He says, "Indeed, no, you're right. Bruce has been telling me of the healing powers of the light of Salumer. Try as I might. To be honest, I intended, should I ever have seen the sunlight again, to have dedicated myself to the priesthood. Perhaps that's the path for me." But even as he says it, you can see he's looking at the cup that you handed him, and you can see that there's something tugging at his heartstrings, something that will not let him go, let him forget about the transgressions perpetrated against him and his family. And in his current state, you highly doubt that he will be able to stay on the path of righteousness.
I know I tease everyone else around here about becoming joining a monastery like me, but I'm sure Bruce has perhaps been telling you of the hyperdulium
Oh boy.
faith. But perhaps I should give you my own perspective that there is a life better left lived in happiness. That regardless of what others may do to you, it is better vengeance, perhaps, to live it well and to live it in happiness under the light of Salumer, than to waste it away thinking perhaps of this anger. There are better things for you in life.
Meadows. I'm sorry, Connor, go for it.
No, the doctor was on a roll. Let's continue on with this roll.
No, you can say what you want if you want.
I was going to suggest having him, come to Femerouge if his father's business is no longer solvent, but that's a bit too on the nose right now, so I decided against saying anything.
Got it. Yeah.
This will tell you
We'll see
why
what his wishes are soon.
I was gonna say Meadows looks like he's about to respond, but I think Bruce is gonna jump in, and Bruce has, Bruce is was a scholarly lad, very interested. When he found religion, he threw himself wholeheartedly into it. Unlike many who walk the different paths of Salumer worship, Bruce he's a theologian. He's quite intrigued by alternative thoughts, but he also loves a good debate. And I think that as you bring that up, he's going to launch into a series of queries and engage you in some of the most hardball, theological discussion that you've experienced, which I don't think I have the knowledge or the strength to role play out in detail here.
No, that's perfectly fair. It's like, we don't need to have a 4-hour religious debate, do we?
Yeah, it does make him sound like an Athanasian, though.
But the doctor will definitely go ahead and fully indulge him, and undoubtedly Bruce will bring him. It's like, well, you see, Saint so-and-so would have done this. And I'll be like, well, he must have had a drink at some point.
Tell me, sir, that when they wrote the scriptures of the et cetera, that he was not at least a little bit buzzed. I'll tell you, I've seen visions. Yeah. All right. So I like that. I think Meadows is going to retreat a little bit. But I'm going to say that the following day of the journey, you guys are nearly have reached Femerouge. Meadows is going to approach Harmon Harmon being the baddest mofo in the bunch here, like at least in terms of
Empirically,
yeah,
there's no
yeah.
qualifications here.
There's no qualifications. He's just seriously. He comes to you. He's got kind of a sheepish look in his eye, but he tells you, Harmon, that although he has been seriously considering walking the path of light, he can't stray from his desires for revenge against the Enclume, what they did to his shop and his father. And he's basically going to ask Harmon for his if he's for hire, if he was able to, does he think that he could help Meadows reclaim his father's mine from these goblins that tend to it? 60 denar a day. Woo! All right. He checks his pockets. I can do what needs to be done, but such is the cost. I think Meadows appreciates that there's no... At first, maybe he's shocked, but I think he appreciates that there's no sense of condescension. And when you speak, Harmon, it is true that it feels like you're being honest. I imagine that Harmon does not offer any doubt. He says that this can be done, but this is the price it'll cost, right? I mean, that's literally what he says. I can do what needs to be done, but such is the cost. And Meadows is maybe at first embarrassed, but he kind of will nod resolutely and say, I will raise the money somehow, and when I have, I will return. I will find you, no variance exactly, just these are the facts. He says, if it's possible, if I can find a way to raise the money, I will return and ask of your assistance, sir. And he'll give you a respectful bow. And I think that's going to get us to Femerouge. And I think this is probably also a good time to roll for the irregulars.
Ooh, irregulars.
I should have made a macro for this, but it's
I'll be right back as I get some water.
Will
Okay.
and Gossip, or is it Mind and Gossip?
And I should have bookmarked this. Ally gift. Gang of irregulars. You may mind and gossip dice versus 3.
All right. How about throwing in nobility and etiquette into the mix?
Did we do that in the past? I guess you would also have the home field advantage here, being back in Femerouge.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, damn. There you go. 2.
So holy
3,
shit,
4,
that's what, 6 I
5.
get?
Yeah. You basically get a whole posse.
Yeah, you get back to town and everyone just like, yeah, we want to go with you on your next adventure.
A literal gang.
2, 3. I bet Raphael's probably healed of injury by now, too.
Yeah.
It was 3 days there, 3 days back, times probably 4 recovery total.
Yeah, probably. If he's being looked after and you've been with him. So yeah, I have not been
Potter
tracking
was
his
probably
stuff.
also injured.
Who?
Potter was probably also injured, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, that's right. He was in a chain gang for the past week, looking kind
He's
of.
been receiving attention.
Yeah, Doctor, you've had your hands full.
I certainly have.
Yeah, captured some of those riderless mounts, those genets. Yeah, genets are hard to come by. I think. What is the name of the town that we created? Egerberg. Up here is one place where you know that they're breeding genets. If that's something you'd like to purchase, you could head over there and find some. Get some mounted combat going.
I would need to buy a lot of riding.
Yeah,
I only
these
just
guys.
now got vehicles. I'm doing the cart now.
I'm sticking. I chose my path and I'm sticking on it. Yeah, the Rinaldi. No, these guys were avoirdupois. They were mounted horses. So, I gotta look up more about the Rinaldi riders. Oh, sale value was the only notion. You want to resell them?
Well, the main point was that we were doing a getaway at the time, but yeah.
That's true. That's true. You guys had kind of a. It was risky at the end there. I should also point out that your cart, I believe, is broken, injured or broken. It's basically it'll run, but it's going to need repairs.
It's a good thing we're in a place with only flat land and didn't continually hit more bumps as the Nishka and I continue to swerve it all over the place.
Yeah, every time you guys hit like a pothole, everybody flinches. Like everyone's expecting the next one is just gonna like throw a wheel off and send everybody sailing to like one side of the carriage. But it doesn't happen. You make it there, even though it's a rather bumpy ride. You guys make it back into town.
Hmm.
All right.
His first things first is to go to Connor's family and present them with their erstwhile child and get paid.
And Harmon needs to, get paid and then go shopping. All right. So I'm just checking my notes. Okay. All right. So, where do you guys want to go first? It sounds like everybody has some degree of business with Connor's family, either returning, getting paid, I guess, getting drinks, and debating with Bruce. Okay, so I assume that you guys will probably travel in style directly to the palace of the Lever family. When
Potter will introduce us all that.
Sorry?
Potter will introduce us all when we get to the gates, so
Nice.
Father knows.
Potter seems to be holding his head a little bit higher than is usual, although he wasn't the one to break out Bruce himself. He does feel like he contributed to the effort. And he came back, he set out to do a thing, and the thing was done, and he even helped. So, he carries himself in a more knightly manner these days. And as you guys enter the main hall, where Connor's father, was it Andre? What is Connor's father's name? I have this written down as well.
His father is Baron Andre Lever.
Baron Andre Lever. Yes, as he sits at the far end of the hall, and his attending knights are standing at attention, and they see Bruce walking proudly, and Connor and Potter as well, taking up the lead, sort of heralding your approach. They look on in astonishment. They begin to bang the butts of their spears against the floor in a sort of applause. Some of the non-military nobles, the attendants, the servants, will begin to lightly applaud and bow as you enter into the room, and the Baron will get up from his seat. And once again, we said the Baron is a very phlegmatic, sort of taciturn individual, but as he walks across the room, he goes straight to Bruce and he throws his arms around his son and gives him a tight hug. He puts a hand on the shoulder of Connor, and he says, "We will talk soon about your blatant disregard for my orders." And then he turns and he looks to Potter and he says, "Good squire, you have displayed much valor and bravery. It is rare that that any noble can admit that they are indebted to one of common birth, but you have my thanks." And he gives him a slight nod, which is a slight bow even. And this is nearly unthinkable to behold, but Potter is speechless. His jaw is on the floor. Potter will drop to one knee in a very knightly bow. His father says, "Bruce, what became of you? I was so worried." And Bruce will begin to tell the whole sad tale, how he had been traveling. He came across members of the Enclume garrison who treated him quite roughly. He was taken prisoner, although he protested that this was a mistake. This was unjust, and not shortly thereafter, they moved him from the castle proper into the dungeon. He knows not why. And then he details the valiant efforts of Potter and of the rest of the party, the thrilling escape that they made. The entire time, the Baron just will simply nod and listen. He does not interrupt at all. He seems to be pondering something. And then at the very end, he will turn to you, Connor, and he'll say, "At no point in this story did I hear any signs of any notion that you had heeded my direct command, Connor."
Yes, Father. For that I am sorry. I can only seek your forgiveness.
Well, it is difficult to be mad at you having succeeded in your incredibly dangerous stunt. However, it would appear that the Enclume are certainly our enemies. Whatever ransom we would have offered, it would not have been this insult that was perpetrated against Bruce. It would have been unjust. So I think, given the circumstances, it seems that your rash actions have proven to be just the thing. Now, what can I offer your companions to compensate them for the risk that they took on behalf of our family? Turn in your badge and your gun. Get out of my sight.
All right, that just what the doctor just typed there. It completely threw me for a loop.
No, that's okay.
Sorry.
No, we're good. Basically, he asks Connor. He says that his part in all of this, I guess, is simply to reward those that have done right by your family. So he asks you, Connor, what sort of compensation your friends seek for putting their lives on the line to free Bruce.
I promised my friend here a payment worthy of his skill. He points to Harmon, and he'll then quote the rest of the bill from Harmon, which I forget. But he now I only owe him 36 dinar, which I do not have on my person currently. The good doctor, I think his price was paid in his time with Good Meadows, though he may ask for a small indulgence to the church.
Well, I mean, I do have a bit of a drinking tab in the local tavern in this year.
Good Anushka here. Need only
Anushka's here.
she has been a boon to our endeavors, and I've only been able to properly pay her once, so she may indeed have a bill for you. And not a character I think we covered everybody in that, because Chelino got paid already.
Yeah. Chileno took his money and ran.
And all I need
Harmon
from
the
Carter
Courage was with
is
you all
a
along.
small retinue of soldiers.
Right. The Baron will nod. He will say, these prices, this is more than a fair price, and I will have all of this payment delivered to your individual quarters. You're, of course, guests here at the Palace Levure. And he says, but you are forgetting one important member of your party. And he turns to Potter and he says, Squire, what is it that we can, what can we give to you for your bravery? And Potter just squeaks, like he can't even get the words out. He just says, the honor is all mine, sir. Just to be, just to be in the good graces of your lord and, Sir Connor is enough for me.
Are you sure that's all you want, Potter? There is a small matter of, and he'll lean down and whisper to Potter that he can't become a true knight until he's been a noble.
Yeah, Potter opens his mouth to speak to the Baron, but like no words comes out, just like the faint little like hiss of air in the back of his throat. It's clear to you that Potter does not have the inherent courage to ask for such a thing. Is probably like, in his mind, it would be like walking up to someone and being like, "Hey, would you mind if you could make me like the president or something?" Just like it's a weird thing for him to ask with his current global view.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very carefully, Connor will put a hand on Potter's shoulder and give him just a slight gentle push forward and just say quietly, but not like whispering, because he's not right up in his ear. Say, go on. He's not going to kill you for it.
Potter
If anybody
will.
was going to die today, it was going to be me.
Nice. Okay, well, given this urging, Potter finds his courage. He says, Your Grace, I don't even know if that's the correct title. Potter will say, I have always dreamed of being a knight in service to a just and noble lord. Your son has been gracious enough to include me in his adventures, but I wish that I could do more in his service, and I know that would mean, making, elevating me above my humble status. This is the only thing I truly desire, my lord. And there is sort of a quiet that falls over the court. The Baron is looking at him, and he's thinking about it.
And while he's thinking, Connor would say, "The boy has served me well, truly above my expectations, especially in this last endeavor, where he sought to free Bruce by himself with the help of one of my retinue." And he'll gesture to Raphael there. If truly there was even one among the population of Femerouge that would be worthy of becoming my squire, I would still pick Potter. Stranger though he is to the city, I think he will become right at home here.
Well said, says the Baron, and he nods. Now, out of character for a moment here, the plan for Potter is first to get the nobility gift via improved ally, correct? And then
Correct.
to get an extra career for him of knight.
Well, I still need to pick up etiquette. I was going to buy that with my 2 coming XP. And if the gift for the goal that we just completed of saving Bruce is, you could then make that, improved ally and nobility, and then I'll just buy up the career from there.
I like it. Okay. So, this is where I wish Rafferty was here, because he could answer this. I don't know if there's any special ceremony for elevating someone to nobility. It's not exactly a knighthood, correct? It's not like he's doing the shoulder touch with the sword.
Technically, it is a knighthood. He is being knighted.
Okay, all right. In that case,
Yeah.
The noble career he saved is knight, so he might as well be being knighted.
Yeah, exactly. I think that makes sense in universe. So, the Baron puts a hand on the hilt of his sword, and he says, I suppose you have shown yourself valiant enough. And as he says that, a voice pipes up from the back of the room. It's a voice you're familiar with, Connor. It says, "This is a joke." And a young raccoon dressed in alumen armor, handsome, good-looking, impetuous. He has the bearing of a chivalrous knight, if not the scars of one, steps forward. You recognize him as Arthur, your youngest brother, the most, maybe, I guess impetuous is maybe the word I'm looking for. You've always known him to look up to you, Connor, and he's always wanted to travel the world, do the hedge knight thing, action, adventure. But when you see him now, there's fury on his face. He steps up and he says, "This is a joke. This common farmer. It takes more than just courage to be a knight. Anyone can have courage, from the lowliest of shrimp farmer, I guess, could display acts of courage. But knights also need to be able to defend their realm and their honor. If he wishes to become a knight, I challenge him first. Let's see how he can handle a sword." And the Baron turns back and gives Arthur sort of a warning look. But what he said seems to have landed somewhere in the Baron's mind. He turns to Potter and to Connor. He says, "It is tradition for the knights in our service to first prove themselves with a test, a show of martial skill. This would be a stately duel. Good Potter's life would not hang in the balance. but it is a tradition of our family.
Connor
Slap
will
him with
nod.
a glove. Metal gauntlet.
It is fair of you to ask for such a thing. And then he will look down at Potter and still with his hand on the shoulder, or just put it there again. Are you ready for this?
Potter just a moment ago thought that he won the lottery. And maybe that has given him some sort of courage or at least adrenaline, but he nods shakily. He says, this has been my dream all my life. Potter versus the noble. And even though his voice wavers, you can tell that he will do anything that it takes. He's so close now, he can't turn back. Arthur looks at him coolly and without any shred of fear in him. And he says, very well, then I challenge you, good farmer, to a duel. Choose your weapon. And he begins to unbuckle the heavier parts of his alumen armor. He hands his spear to a nearby guard, and he draws the beautifully crafted sword at his side.
Potter just has a set of leathers, but also I believe he just has a regular shield. I think his is metal. Yeah, I did buy it metal. And a Cinquedea.
Okay.
Both look like they were bought by somebody with money, meaning, it's not secondhand, none of the jewels have fallen off, that sort of thing. And Cinquedea are typically used by the artisans of the day to show off their skill. They were basically like that one rapper that wears clocks all the time. It was bling.
It's bling, yeah, it's for show.
So his weapon is also richly appointed, but maybe not so much as like a landed noble who actually has a more steady income can deliver.
Gotcha.
I do ask only in this duel that Potter be afforded the same level of protection as my good brother.
The bearer nods. He says that is reasonable. Unfortunately, he looks around and says, I'm not sure that there is, that we have armor that would suit him for the moment. And then he looks at his youngest son, Arthur, and says, would you mind fighting this battle without your alumen? And Arthur kind of brushes him off with a I could fight him in my undergarments. It wouldn't change a thing. Come.
Very well then.